Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today's article is slightly alarming, but nothing to panic about. For those interested, the link to the article is in the description below. Planet-sized sunspot has grown 10 times in just a few days, and it's aimed right at Earth. By Katie Hutton. Now let's dive right in and see what she has to say.
A sunspot that is pointing straight towards Earth and is fast expanding has been seen by scientists. This sunspot has the potential to send an attack of solar energy our way in the coming days, according to Newsweek. A few days ago, the sunspot, which was given the designation of AR 3085 after the active region of the Sun in which it first formed, was hardly a blip on the radar. According to spaceweather.com, it has now increased in size by a factor of 10, transforming into a pair of sunspots that each measure almost as far as the circumference of the Earth. This animation illustrates the progression of the spot over the course of about 2 days. According to space weather, a number of solar flares, which are huge bursts of electromagnetic radiation that snap off from the surface of the Sun and blast forth into space, have been spotted crackling in the area. Solar flares are a type of solar activity that can be dangerous to Earth if they are large enough.
To put this more into perspective, on March 6, 1989, an X-class solar flare occurred, and a few days later, on the 13th, caused a 9-hour outage in Quebec, Canada, wiping out their entire electrical transmission. Another incident impacted the Australian Army component of the United Nations peacekeeping force, which was deployed to Namibia. At the time, the effects were believed to have lasted for weeks afterwards, as they were heavily reliant on high-frequency radio communications, which were severely impacted.
The good news is that all of the flares that are occurring right now belong to the C class, which is the weakest of the 3 classes of solar flares that government satellites monitor. In most cases, flares of the A, B, and C classes are not powerful enough to have a discernible effect on Earth. According to NASA, flares of the X class have the potential to cause widespread radio blackouts, damage satellites, and knock out ground-based power grids. M-class flares are stronger than X-class flares and are capable of causing radio blackouts at high latitudes. X-class flares are the strongest type of solar flare. If the spots continue to enlarge over the next several days, it is possible that they could emit more powerful flares that will go toward Earth. This could put satellites and communication systems in jeopardy. There is not, however, any immediate threat at this time. On the surface of the Sun, huge, dark patches characterized by intense magnetic fields may take the shape of sunspots. According to Space.com, the reason these areas, which often have a width comparable to that of planets, look darker is because they have a lower temperature than the rest of their surroundings. They originate at areas of the Sun's surface where bands of the magnetic field get entangled and tight, so obstructing the passage of hot gas emanating from the inside of the Sun and giving rise to colder, darker regions on its surface. Solar flares are often caused by the accumulation of magnetic energy at the Sun's surface. When there are a greater number of sunspots present on the Sun at a certain period, there is a greater chance that solar flares may occur. There is a correlation between the Sun's 11-year cycle of activity and the frequency of sunspots and solar flares. This cycle alternates between times of high sunspot density and periods of low sunspot density around once every 10 years or so. It is anticipated that the next solar maximum, also known as the time of greatest sunspot activity, will occur in the year 2025. It is anticipated that during the days of the Sun's peak activity, as many as 115 sunspots would form on the surface of the Sun. Solar activity has been increasing over the last few years, and since spring of 2022, there have been a number of X-class flares that have swept across our globe, often occurring within a few days of one another. This trend is expected to continue for the foreseeable future. As time ticks away toward the next solar maximum, there is a good chance that there will be a greater rise in the number of sunspots and solar flares.
Although it's very unlikely anything will happen, it never hurts to be prepared. Simple things like having some water stored, some extra food, even some Faraday products to protect your electronic devices. If you have any other suggestions, mention them down in the comments. And if you haven't already, it's a great time to like, subscribe, and ring the bell.